bubbling and we're excited because the next conversation is really going to tell you who's boss, with a safe space for women to share their stories about joy, love, and about strength and even success. This morning we are joined by actresses Cecilia Salazar and Renee King as they are getting ready to tell us about the Vagina Monologues happening from the 6th to the 8th of September at the Naparima Bowl. Ladies, good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Good morning, TTT.
Welcome back.
Yes, good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
But I'm thrilled to have this conversation because, as I was telling you during the break, I remember hearing adverts on radio for the Vagina Monologues when I was in school and thinking to myself, that would be so cool to kind of participate. And in this case, after each performance, there is the opportunity for persons to participate. So for those who didn't hear the ad, tell them, Cecilia, what is the Vagina Monologue?
Well, the Vagina Monologues is really a compilation of stories, of women's stories that Eve Ensler, she compiled, and I think she first did it in 1998, if I'm correct. I first did it on off Broadway when I was researching. And then she did it as part of a whole V-Day movement, is what they call it. So proceeds from it, when she did it for V-Day, in the year you would have seen it, early 2000s, because Trinidad did it the same time that they were doing it in America, England, Finland, all over the world were doing it, and proceeds were going to help women who were victims of violence and violence.
But I know that the conversations are not all centered around violence at all.
No, it's not. It's not. But that's how it started. And so it's different stories for women from all over the world. Stories of pleasure, stories of longing, story of first times, story of birth, story of all the wonderful things that the vagina can contribute to the world.
I mean, it really can.
It definitely does talk about discovery. I think most times women are not given the opportunity to discover themselves, and I think that's what the piece speaks to. Each individual story, to some extent, talks about discovery. How a woman either discovers herself through pain, or discovers herself through pleasure, discovers herself through understanding her body a bit more, and it's conversations.
Sometimes even understanding herself through her partner as well. Some of that. So it's different. It's many different stories that she pulled, and as she said, they interviewed doctors, lawyers, actors, workers.
So perspective.
They even have some victims of war. You know, the war in Kosovo at the time. And so it's dealing with all of those issues, and it's put together so it's a roller coaster ride of laughter, sad, up, down.
But then it begs the question of who the audience or an appropriate audience would be. A lot of times when we have conversations specific to genders, we may exclude other groups. There may be age limits or taboo things that they'd like to put an age limit on. Who would you say this audience targets in terms of age, or ideally exposing them to, Renee?
I think it speaks to everyone. It is open for, I wouldn't say for all ages, but once you're able to understand a woman, or you are involved with a woman, or you are a woman, and you believe that society has not been able to understand you, I think this is a story that you'd be interested in hearing. So I think even though it may be the stories of women, men are also welcome to join, because these are not conversations men are having with each other or with women. And if they saw this play, if they saw these pieces, they may have a greater understanding of maybe what women go through, because these are not conversations we're having with men.
And there are group pieces in between. So it's monologues, and then there are group pieces. Well, all the 5 actresses, who is myself, Renee King, Natasha Jones, Almal Gordon Holder, and Almal coming from Tobago. So she's a Tobago-based actress, and Jerry Lee
David Ramke,
who worked with me in Mamma Mia. That was the last thing Proscenium did. Now, all my rehearsals, we have to have on a phone or a tablet or a screen.
Digital connection.
Digital
Making
connection.
it happen.
But she'll be flying over, of course, to be honest. Oh, it would have been great to have on a big screen. Anyway, that's what
the elements might change for each day.
So she'll be here.
Now, tell me about each day, because in terms of the collection that will be shared with us, there is the opportunity to cover so many topics and so many many interviews were done. Is it that we're seeing the same group of performances or the same monologues and group performances on each of the days?
Yes.
Yes.
It's the same show.
Yes.
It's the same show each day. But that's a nice idea.
I know, and since you're thinking about putting on a big screen, who knows what else will change?
Yes.
And in terms of prep, granted that this is something that has happened internationally across multiple different types of culture, do we see that sort of integration in the Trini version, or is it homegrown for us? How would you describe it,
No,
Cecilia?
we are sticking to the original script that Eve Ensler has written. But in the group pieces is where we can integrate. Okay, so the group pieces, there's one piece where there's slangs.
Okay.
Slangs for vagina. Of course, that varies all over the world. And American slangs would be different. So there we integrated our local and Caribbean, not only local, because we have some nice Caribbean slangs too. So, some very flowery words.
Oh boy.
We wouldn't say them on TV this
Definitely
morning.
not say it on the morning show.
So we so that's where we were able to infuse. But the actual work that Eve Ensler did, we are sticking
Staying
to
true to
the
that.
script.
And tell me a little bit about that preparation, though, because again, something that has existed before to continue to reinvigorate audiences towards that. And Renee, did you find it challenging at all? What was the prep like?
It's increasingly challenging. I would say each time you visit the page, it's challenging because it does call for you to be vulnerable. It does call for you to be very honest with yourself. If you're not honest with the work, it doesn't read, it doesn't translate. And so the challenge is being able to stay honest with the work. And of course, knowing that there is a greater message in between the lines. So trying to get that message across and not just thinking you're learning lines and you're saying lines and you're doing this performance. These are people's lives that you're trying to tell the audience about. And you're trying to sell that story to them in a way that they have an appreciation for women and the things and the topics we're talking about.
That is such a good point, because that's what happened to me last night. I had a breakthrough with my monologue because of that. Because I realized it's not about me, it's not about the actress, it's not even about, it's about me representing these women who were victims of war or whatever. It's me representing them, giving them a voice. So everybody in Trinidad can hear those stories that come from all over the
those
world,
places.
you know?
I wonder then, what would you describe as the message that you hope people take away from these events? I'll start with you, Cecilia, seeing as you had the breakthrough, and then Renee.
I think that that women have a voice. The vagina has a voice, and women have a voice. And these women have spoken up and told their stories. And it's encouraged me to go on Instagram and Facebook. And I'm seeing so many local
stories.
Trinidad women stories, women who are brave enough to come out and put up their stories about their autistic children. There's been some really heartbreaking ones coming out. And so you never know, we might do a collection of local women's stories after. But I think it's important, and I think it will empower you to get a voice and to speak up when you come to the show.
For sure, Renee, your thoughts in terms of what people will take away?
I think people will take joy. I think a lot of times we come to the theater and we try to sometimes, push a certain agenda. We want it to either be very slapstick or we want it to be, this serious drama. But I think there's a lot of joy in the piece that we do, and the joy of being a woman or just having, experiences as a woman. And I think I would like the audiences to take that from what we're doing. So yes, there's so many stories that we tell, and there's so many things you can take from it. But I think if they step away from it with a sense of joy, whether being a woman or, being a part of a woman's life, if you can see the joy in that and the joy in the stories that we tell, and even just the joy of theater, I think that would be something that I would want the audience to take from what we do.
And they can
come out, Naparima Bowl, 6th to the 8th. The 6th and the 7th, the show is 8 p.m. But on a Sunday, the show is 3:30 p.m. We're doing an early show, so if you want to drive down, those who want to drive down to South, we have an early show for you all, so you can get home early. And tickets on islandetickets.com and
Naparima Bowl.
Naparima Bowl and Lemon Pepper, is it called?
Yes, and Movie Town.
All right. So, guys, we are heading down south. We are going to celebrate womanhood with the Vagina Monologues happening at the Naparima Bowl from the 6th to the 8th of September. We'll remind you more closely to that date, but for now, we take a break and come back.
I have one more thing to say. It's directed by Mervyn de Gouge.
Oh.
How could we forget? How wonderful.
Good morning, Mervyn de Gouge. And to you viewing us here on the Now Morning Show. We'll be back.